speak at the Berger, but thank you very much. And we are writing Chatzitzah somewhere in a while ago, so we're still learning it now. So it's nice to get the Halachic with the Chatzitzah.
Okay. Shkoyach. It's late at night. We're going to try to keep moving. The presentation that I give, the shir I give, is really very lemaisa. So I'm going to try to pinpoint a lot of the shaylas. Also, thank you very much for having me, Rabbi Aviv and Rabbi Langer, Rabbi Chaim. It's a big schos to be here. And I guess I've moved already a few screens without even knowing it. Okay. So we're going to go over a few things. Those who have the handouts, I just jotted down a few things. Some people find it easier to take notes. I'm not always going to keep exactly in order of what's over there, but hopefully we'll get a very good idea of what the Metzias is that we're dealing with, what shaylas come up, and again, in terms of psak halacha, Baruch Hashem, you have a lot of chashav rabbanon to pass on the shaylas, so we'll leave the psak for other people. Okay, so for all of us who have seen a mouth before, that's pretty much what it looks like. Most people don't really think about what's going on in their mouth. For now, we're just going to say, for those who don't, these are teeth, these are gums, right? The teeth are sitting inside the gums, housed in the jawbone, and these are all important things we'll see as we move along. So the gums are just a thin piece of skin that covers the jawbone underneath. We can all feel our jaws, and the teeth are what we see most of the time. So if we would actually take this section and look exactly what's going on in the mouth, so you can see the roots are embedded deeply underneath the gums into the bone. And if we take a look at an x-ray, because we're going to be looking at x-rays tonight just to sort of get pictures of what's going on, the amount of tooth that we see is usually this much, but there's a lot more really that's going on, and really all of it is housed within the bone and the gums inside. This is a normal tooth. It has an outer layer of enamel. It has an inner layer of dentin. You don't need to know these words necessarily, but it's just good to know there's different layers. An area we're going to discuss a little bit is this area here, this dark area inside the tooth, which is referred to as the canal. So when a person has a root canal, something went wrong in that area, so it's just good to know sort of what we're looking at. Hopefully by the end of the night, we'll all be experts reading these x-rays. So we're going to digress off regular fillings and cavities because the shaylas come up once in a while with plaque and calculus. So plaque and calculus are normal things that develop in our mouth, and people want to know sometimes, if it's too much plaque, is it a problem? If the mouth is not clean, is it a chatzitzah? So in general, again, it's hard to see some of it necessarily, but again, this is a person who has normal plaque buildup. I think we can all see this person has more plaque buildup, and this person, it's just all chaos has gone on in this particular mouth. So what happens if someone like this comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to the mikveh tonight, am I allowed to go like this? So obviously the Rav answering the shayla is not looking at that. On the phone you really can't see what's going on in the mouth. But yes, I had a lady call me up at 5 o'clock at night. She's going to the mikveh, and the Rav said she can't go to the mikveh the way her mouth is. I was surprised, but I didn't want to ask who the Rav was, because Lamai said, you see in Paiskim V'derech Klal, this is not a problem. And the shayla is going to be, why not? So if we go over here, we're going to talk about plaque and calculus. Plaque, and I'll read it, and then I'll translate it into English. So is a naturally occurring microbial deposit, meaning consisting of bacteria, in a matrix composed of bacterial polymers, salvia exudate, and gingival exudate products. In English, all this means is that everything that comprises the plaque and the calculus, when it gets hard in your mouth, is all made from the body itself. Nothing's external. People think that like food builds up on your teeth. Food does not build up on your teeth. So in the Paiskim, although there are certain Halachic Sfarim that say that if there's a lot of plaque, then maybe it's a shayla of a mira makbid. I think the Hamoyim go that it's daimit to yabelis, the Hamo who's making yabelis, and the shayla is, why is it daimit to yabelis? Yabelis is a natural growth of the skin. So here also, this seems to be some natural outgrowth of the salivary proteins and the bacteria that innately live in our mouths. So when these things come up, again, if a woman is so upset that Lamaisa, she has so much in her mouth and she thinks it's a problem, so tzarech in such a situation, but very often, if the Rav already paskined it, we sort of deal with the situation as is. So let's go.
Calculus retarder, is there also food built in between, even though the actual calculus retarder itself is not? Would there be pieces stuck in between, or that's nothing?
No, again, I mean, if you're brushing and you're flossing and that stuff is still staying there, there's nothing really that's going to stick over there. So let's talk about cavities. A cavity is a bacterial disease. Bacteria literally go into our mouths and they eat up tooth structure. So instead of having a healthy tooth like we saw before, there's a break in the side of the tooth or in the top of the tooth, and that has to be drilled out and has to be filled. So if you look here, as we talked about the x-rays earlier, we saw a normal x-ray, a tooth looks like this. Here, this tooth looks like someone took a bite out of the side of it, and this you could also see is demineralizing on the side, meaning there's bacteria that's eating away there. This picture is a little hard to see, but here you could literally see a hole being eaten right into these teeth over here, and this is, this is serious. So there's a big hole over there. So in terms of the shilas of whether a cavity is a chatzitzah or not, it's just, decayed tooth structure, even though theoretically a person could say, what do you mean? If I want to do this filling, I have to drill out all this decayed tooth structure, so maybe you want to tell me that the decayed structure, the decayed tooth, is a problem because it's aimed to come out at this point. So again, I think we'll all understand that anything that's part of the body that's aimed to come out, but derech I don't think we're makbid on. Have I heard people in certain groups that are machmir on something like this? Yes, but I think the bigger chash is really is it anything getting stuck inside. So if a woman has something like this going on in her mouth, it's obviously very important that she cleans it out very well or make sure it's cleaned up by someone very well before they go to the mikveh. I mean, besides all the health issues that she's going to have and the pain she might be in besides that. But practically speaking, that's the main issue. Now what happens is when we go ahead and we cut away the tooth, we clean everything out, and then we make some type of filling. These are silver fillings, they're white fillings also. For all argument's sake, until we get to the temporary filling, they're all really the same. And again, on an x-ray, we talked about earlier what an x-ray looks like, and here you can see how a filling just restores what was there before. That's why we call it a restoration. It just restores missing tooth structure. And all the things we do in the mouth really just restore what was missing. Unlike the rest of the body, if a person chas v'shalom gets a cut on the side of their arm, wherever it may be, or a bone, it heals. There are cells there that heal the skin and the bone and the muscles and things like this. Teeth don't have those cells. Once the cells once they form the tooth, those cells are gone. So once a tooth gets decay, it can't really redevelop itself, so we just need to put some type of inert object, something that's not alive, to fill that space, and hopefully you can do it nicely. These are nice fillings that are done here. Here's a bunch of fillings that are all in a row. Maybe they're not the most beautiful ones, but they're serving quite the purpose. And here is what a temporary filling is like. A temporary filling, it happens to be a white color. You don't know the difference, but a temporary filling, which we're going to, is really where most of the raid is going to be as far as chatzitzahs go, is really just a well-fitting filling, and it's just easier to take out. Meaning it's easier to place, it's easier to take out, because you want to be able to take something out easy, so you don't have to keep drilling every time you have to take it out. So I haven't done this particular one because people always ask me how long can a temporary filling last. So this particular one was there for 2 years. So, and it's actually in pretty good shape. It looks pretty nice. So after 2 years, they definitely could withstand. I was talking to someone recently, and I was telling over Maisa that I had a lady come into the office. A Rav called me from out of town, and his daughter-in-law has a temporary filling, and he holds temporary fillings are a problem. So he was trying to find who can take it out and then put it back in. So I tried to explain it to him. I said, no, we don't do that here. Temporary fillings, if they fit well and they're comfortable and they're not causing a problem, there's nothing wrong with it. They're just, it's been there for a month, 2, 3 months, so that's going to be there for a while. Whatever coolers you want to work on, it had all the check boxes checked off. And he says, I know, but when I learned the sugyas, I came out that it was a problem. So again, we're not going to go through what happened Lamaisa, but again, there definitely are people who are mefakbek, and Lamaisa, we spoke in Beis Medrash, and it created a little bit of an uproar that someone was creating a chum on his daughter-in-law that, I don't know, maybe exists, maybe doesn't exist, but at the end of the day, a temporary filling is really just merely a filling that's going to be put in for a temporary period of time. Why do we put in temporary fillings? I think most of the time it's going to be on top of a root canal, which we're going to get to in a little bit, Bez Hashem. Or sometimes you'll see it, if a person has a lot of decay in their mouth, sometimes they'll just first clean out all the fillings just quickly. and then put in temporary fillings, and then come back and do each filling later. But you don't see that too often. I think the major issues with temporary fillings are going to be on top of root canals, which we'll see. Another type of restoration is a crown. When we were looking at the pictures earlier, we were looking at when you have like a little cavity. But what if you have like a lot of tooth structure missing? So if you have a lot of tooth structure missing, a crown is something that's going to go over the whole tooth like a sleeve. And again, we'll talk about permanent crowns also at a certain point, but this is really what a crown is. A person has a tooth prepared to something like this. Unfortunately, most of the time when you see it around here, it's never that like pretty looking. You know, it's never, I mean, you don't really appreciate how pretty that looks, but it's usually been decayed and root canaled and built up with a material, which we'll see later also, but sometimes for aesthetic reasons. Let's say a person doesn't like the way their front tooth looks. It's stained, it's something, it's this, so they'll go ahead. They'll just shave it down and make something like this. And a temporary crown, this looks something more similar like this. So this actually is a temporary crown. You can see that the shade is really not off, and it's really just a crown that's made out of some type of plastic. It's made of an acrylic or some type of resin material, which are plastics. They're easy to use chair side so that you can formulate, make one quickly, and then hopefully, if they're made right, they should be comfortable. We'll get back to this picture later anyway. So again, going through, there's fillings when things are smaller, and then there's crowns when things get, I guess, a little bigger, basically. A root canal is something like this. When the decay goes in so far that it now infects the canal. So this is the only really major living part of the tooth. This is where all the blood vessels are. This is where the nerves are. And again, this is why this can hurt. But when there's an infection that goes this deep, literally you have to go in and clean this area out, and then you refill it with a filling material. So a root canal, for a layman, really is just a very long filling. It just goes much deeper into the roots. So that's, the decay went deeper, and there's infection in an area that it's going to hurt a lot, so we need to clean it out and later fill it up. So the first, this is a small, you literally drill through the middle of the tooth, and you find your canals and you clean them out. And then here on the X-ray, you can see literally the filling material goes through the inside of the root and just fills it up, and this is a temporary filling on top of it. So this is really classic what a person would look like after a root canal, where the root canals are filled, and then you put this in. So let's say after a root canal. So what are we really thinking about? So number one, there's always shilas in terms of temporaries, and again, everyone's going to have their own kulas they use, and what we're samech on a sirufin to be makel on a temporary filling. But if you have a woman that's going to have this done, and the next appointment is, let's say, not for a month, so you have, let's say, the kula of 30 days that they throw around, and it's comfortable, and it's filling up tooth structure that's always going to be there, and whatever other tzirufim we want to use, so theoretically, assuming this is comfortable, we should be good. What if it starts to chip and become uncomfortable? So then we have to rethink exactly what's going on, because then it gets a little bit less simple. The only other thing that came up once or twice was really this. And again, the Lamdanim can tell me what they think, exactly what's going on. Let's say the temporary filling falls off, right? So now you have an empty hole going into the tooth, right? But it's not really empty. Really, in this area right here, under the filling, before the actual canals are filled, usually we put cotton. And I say we loosely, I haven't done a root canal in a very long time. But cotton is placed into this area. The reason the cotton is put there is for practical reasons, is because you just want to have a bottom so that when you go to drill out the temporary filling, you sort of know where to stop, so you don't have to start drilling into things you don't want to have to drill into, so it's a very easy way to stop. So again, Shaila is, I'll ask you get a call, it's 10 o'clock at night, this piece fell out, and right now there's a hole going into the tooth, and there's cotton sitting there. What do we do?
That area is not balua?
What?
That area where the cotton is located is balua?
Oh, so again, it maybe it's balua, but it's not balua right now, is it? I mean, right now, that's, what? There's a hole going right through there. What? You saying through the cotton?
Yeah.
What? You saying how well is it packed in? I said, l'chadchili, you want to be samech on that? I don't know. So again, I was saying, again, she came to my house at 9:30 at night, and we took out the cotton. Not everyone has instruments to be able to get the cotton out so well, but it's always important to know that that's what's there. So if the temporary filling falls out.
So if I have a temporary filling with the cotton on the bottom,
Yeah.
when it's still full, before if it doesn't fall,
All right.
so why is the cotton not a chatzitzah?
then
It's
that's
not needed for the actual,
It's-
for
see,
the dentist, not for the labor. It's not for the,
no, but then that's for sure balua. I mean, again, I'm trying to think: does it now become unbalua now that it's open, right?
When they do the permanent crown, that cotton stays there, that crown's removed to fill it with permanent.
They take it out. They take it out.
That's not even that's going to be refilled.
Yeah, no.
Marshal a little bit, that's going to be re-balua, but
Right, no.
right now.
But again, so these are important things to know. If a person had a root canal and the filling comes out, it's just important to know that something might be there that may cause a problem. Or if it starts seeping out, again, if it's seeping out, then that's obviously, it's cleansable. If it's seeping out enough, it could be tzalabei maya. But it's just good to know these things going forward. Where's my thing? Okay. So now what happens after the root canal? So after the root canal, let's say a lot of tooth structure is missing. So we come back and we put a post. A post is, I don't know what's going on. A post is right here. We stick some type of metal thing into the root canal, and it looks like this. And then we can then build some type of what we call a core on top of it with which to cement the crown. And these are just really x-rays showing you what you have, your canal here, the post, and the crown on top of it. Sorry, is my battery gone? Sorry. That's fine. Okay, so just to show you here, just because I like this picture, so I threw it in. And also, we updated the presentation as of last night. 10:30 last night, a Shaila came up, so I'll show it to you. I was very excited to be able to update it. But here also, this is a tooth that was actually removed. I removed the tooth, and I was just very excited how nice of a picture it is, because you could literally see the tooth was split in half when it was taken out. So here is the post that goes into the canal, and the buildup on top of it, and you could see like the other side where the screw was screwed into the other side, and that's really what it looks like inside the tooth. Where really you just really screw some type of piece or cement some type of piece in, you make some type of material on top. Now this, when people ask about posts, this is cemented in, this is bonded in. These parts are all fine. So once the post is put in and the temporary core is, and the core is built on top of it, this buildup, all those things stay there, and then the only thing you'll be dealing with is a temporary crown.
The temporary crown is put on the post.
What?
You put on the post at the temporary crown pieces.
Usually when you put on the post and then you put on the buildup, then usually, like at this point, this is what it looks like. This is the post coming through the top, this is the core buildup on top of it, and what they're doing at this visit right now is they're taking an impression. So I can really diverge into two really categories over here. The traditional way to do it is you take that goopy stuff, you put it in the mouth, you let it harden, and then you send it to the lab, and now they have an exact impression, and they can make you an exact crown. Meanwhile, you don't want the person walking around with nothing, so you make a temporary crown, and this is where the shilas come up. Nowadays, there are definitely people who have digital impressions and have milling machines in their office, so literally they can take a digital impression of this and have it milled within about an hour in the office and put it back on, and then you won't need to have any temporary crowns, which is a big milah in certain areas, but then again, sometimes it can be other, because they did it one time, and we got a call one night, and the woman was very unhappy with the color, and they had cemented it on permanently. And now it was in the front of the mouth, and it was a back and forth whether or not it was considered a real hakpada, because she really wanted to get the crown redone. So now by default, this became a temporary crown, which they're going to have to cut off now. It's not just going to pop off. They used permanent cement. And it was a back and forth exactly whether or not she can go to the mikveh at night. And I'm not going to get into the details because it's not really worthwhile. At the end, really, she wasn't really makbid. But we will see. So again, as far as temporary crowns go, temporary fillings and temporary crowns are really where all the shilas come up, and I'm not here to tell everyone what to be semich on, what not to be semich on. Again, the minig in B'derech Kla in our community is to go to the mikveh with these things, provided you have certain, check boxes in certain areas to make sure that everything is fine. I still think the ikr is that it's got to be comfortable. If it's not comfortable, it's a problem. Someone once told me, what did he ask me? A dentist called me up and he asked me, he said, I don't understand. He said, on a permanent filling. He said, a permanent filling, if it's out of the bite a little bit, right? They make the filling, and then but it's bothering her. It's hurting her. So he says, why is that a problem? He said, the filling is good. We just have to adjust the bite. So I said, what do you mean it's good? I said, you're right. 99% of it is good. I said, but that 1% is still a mira makbid, because that little tiny piece that you're going to have to shave off later is a mira makbid. That's what it is. So here also, when this is made, it's supposed to be made in a way that's comfortable enough that it should be comfortable for the bite, it should be comfortable with the tongue, and you shouldn't really have a problem. I one night came out of Ma'ariv, and a chashav rav in the neighborhood came over to me, and he says, I don't understand. I said, I don't understand what? He goes, I don't understand how anyone can make it on a temporary crown. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I got one today. He goes, it's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever had in my mouth. He goes, I said, so you have to know, not everyone is created equal. If it takes chair side 1.5 minutes to make it, and it's not smooth, and it's not, so maybe it won't be so good. If it takes 5 or 10 minutes to make it properly, then again, you might have a very nice, smooth, well-contoured, and a very comfortable crown to be made. What? Yeah.
That's an issue with?
No, that all stays there. That all stays there. So if the let's talk that out. So let's say a temporary crown falls off. Right? So usually then, the only issues you have to worry about is if there's excess cement left on the tooth here or there. I find in general, especially with temporary cement usually stays on the crown. Once in a while, what happens is, you get the call, the Rav calls me up and says, the lady said that it's bothering her and she feels she has something in her mouth, it looks funny, and it feels funny. I'm not going to say this is a flat-out statement, but usually I find what's feeling funny, it looks funny, is they're just not used to looking at the tooth that way. Like if you looked at your tooth and it looked like that, right, you would also think that something feels funny, right? And it looks funny. So immediately they think, oh, there's cement stuck there. Because again, it feels funny, it looks funny, and again, I don't remember too many times that I've actually had a problem at night where Lamaisa there was a real problem with that. But again, I don't want to take responsibility for saying that because it's not always true. Okay, I just say this child, it doesn't really come up, so I don't want to waste time with it too much. But once it came up once, so it was exciting to get a new shiloh that I hadn't really b'chlal ever heard. But there's something called retraction cord. Now, I meant to ask someone today, in terms of those people who use digital impressions, I do not think they use retraction cords most of the time. But when a person takes impressions of this, what they usually do is they take this cord that looks like this, and they wedge it in around the gums to make the gums spread out. So that when they make the impression material can flow in better and take a better impression of the tooth. So a lady called Erev Rosh Hashanah, 4 o'clock, she's going to the mikveh, Leil Matzei Rosh Hashanah. And I was all excited because I was sleeping at the time. So my wife took the phone call. She's like, oh, he's taking a nap right now. You're going to have to call him later. Like, the Rebbe stories they're always taking a nap. So, right? So Baruch Hashem, I got back to the Rav, and he said that the lady said there's something stuck between her teeth. I said, okay, so, tell her to call me. So she called me. I said, floss it out. She said, I flossed already, it didn't come out. I said, take the floss and tie it into some knots, and then, put it through and try to get it out with the knots. She says, but I might knock off the crown. I said, if you don't knock it off, if you don't get it out, we have bigger problems anyway right now. Just try it. And then she said, the temporary crown came off. And then I said, okay, how does it feel now? She goes, it's still bothering me. I said, okay, so now let's head to the office. So Erev Rosh Hashanah, Baruch Hashem, we got to go to the office again. And we found out that the dentist who had put this in forgot to take it out. I guess they had wedged it underneath, and either he or the assistant forgot to take it out, and little by little it made its way out, and it was really mira makbid. It was very uncomfortable, and it was making its way out. So not too often do we get a real, Evan ben Hashinayim, but it was Etzem ben Hashinayim, but it made for an interesting Erev Rosh Hashanah. No, it was sticking out already. Yeah, she was feeling it because it was actually literally coming out from between her teeth. You're right. Li Yitzu is still all the way up there. So again, then there's definitely Malkum Mekel certainly afterwards. So now we're going to go over some of the complications that come up and some of the shilohs. We've discussed a few of them as we went along, but I find these are some of the more prevalent shilohs and just certain things to think about. Also, as we go through this, b'derech klal, when we talk about a filling, we talk about a crown, we talk about anything we put in our mouth. So, albeit there were earlier poskim that even held fillings were a problem or crowns were a problem, but b'derech klal, the materials we use are much better and they're more permanent. And in general, I think most poskim are going to assume that once you have something that's in the guf and cemented to the guf, it's bottled to the guf, and we assume it becomes part of the guf. The shaila always is going to be, can it become unbottled? Like what happens is there like a metzias where now it's not batal to the guf anymore because now for whatever reason you're going to go ahead and change it. So that's sort of a lot what we have to don on each particular situation. So we'll go through things. Again, the pictures here are not so exciting. I mean, again, anyone who's ever had a filling knows that after the filling is done, they put that blue paper and they make you bite down and tap, tap, and they're really looking to see where everything is contacting. They want everything to contact in the right place. If you have like a filling was done right here, and if you have like a big blotch of blue right there, then you know that it's hitting too hard on the actual filling, and you go ahead and you try to shave it down. So very often, like we discussed earlier, a high filling or a high crown, even if it's a permanent high filling or a permanent high crown, so long that it's high, it's going to be a problem. So again, if a woman says, it hurts when I'm biting for 2 days already since I had the filling done, the stomach, that's going to be an issue, and it really should be adjusted. It doesn't take more than a few seconds, but that's definitely, one major problem that can occur.
What about the blue?
What?
The blue.
The blue dots?
Yeah, the blue.
Oh, that's the biting paper. When you bite down,
Does she go in the water with the blue?
can she go in the blood? If she's got, it won't stay on for very long. That'll wash right off.
It'll come off when she brushes the teeth?
What? Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wait, do we get to that now? Okay, that'll be a good one also. We'll get there. Okay, sensitive to cold and hot. Okay, so, a woman's sensitive to cold and hot, that shouldn't make a difference. You have recession, you have this. There's a lot of reasons why a person is going to be sensitive to cold and hot. But let's say a person had a filling done, and this is a common thing. You get a filling done, and now it's sensitive. Now it's hurting me more than it was before. I can't believe it. I went to the wrong dentist because everything was fine before I got there. They said I need 2 fillings, and I had a filling done, and now it's hurting more than when I walked in. What happens? So sometimes, really, it could be very deep. It was a deep cavity, and while they're drilling out, they just got to an area that was a little more sensitive. The shaila is if it's bothering them now because it's hot and cold, it's sensitive to hot and cold, is that a problem with the filling, or that's really a problem with the tooth? The filling is perfect. The bite is perfect. Everything's perfect. But the dentist says, oh, you know what? It was very close to the nerve, and we may have to do a root canal, which means in English, we may have to drill out the filling and do a root canal. So now, what does that filling become? Right? So again, at the worst, it becomes a temporary filling. But realistically speaking, I would assume a lot of the time sensitivity does go away, number one. And number two, if the dentist usually tells the person that we may have to do a root canal, that does not mean we are vade doing a root canal, and they're probably just covering themselves just in case it happens. It's much easier to tell a person that they might need a root canal before they need it than they might need a root canal after the problem has already arose. So very often, and again, I think I have it, we'll get to it later, about certain things that dentists say that are silly, just because they want you to be prepared in case there's a problem, albeit that it may happen 10 years in the future. Okay, poorly filled fillings. This is a great picture. I love it. And for everyone who's paying attention till this point, recognizes that literally these fillings, it doesn't even look like the dentist was looking when he was putting them in, or she, I don't know. They're literally hanging all over the place. So now there are people walking around with fillings like this. And if they go to a new dentist, the dentist is going to say, you need to get these redone now. So are these bad ones? Are they not bad? Like what? It's very hard to know. What?
So they're bad dentists.
The bad dentist. The shaila is if ladies go to the dentist and the dentist says, oh, these are terrible fillings. They have to be redone right away. We'll put you in for next week, and she's going to the mikveh that night. Now what's the status of these fillings? So again, the stomach, she's had these fillings for 20 years, albeit that her gums are probably a little inflamed because there's like all this stuff stuck in between her teeth. But all in all, I don't know if that makes it any worse than it was before. If it was in her mouth for 20 years and she was fine with it and she doesn't know the difference, and now the dentist tells her they need to be removed, does that automatically make this now a hakpada? Again, so you go. There are definitely going to be different opinions in the poskim. If she has an appointment, she doesn't have an appointment. If it hurts her, it doesn't hurt her. So you have to down the shaylas exactly. But again, this particular one doesn't really come up too often. Then the dentist says the filling may not last that long. I was very excited. I got this shayla. This is a wisdom tooth in the back. The dentist told the person that it might not last long, and they said they called the Rav Kamei, they came in, and we wanted to check it out. So finally I asked the obvious question, when did the dentist tell you that it's not going to last very long? 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, it might not last that long. Now, why she woke up today, the day of the mikvah, I mean, and she'd gone probably many times in the past 4 years, but for some reason she got it in her head that it may not last long, and this filling was sitting there for a very long time. Is it the greatest filling in the world? No, but Baruch Hashem, it was doing pretty well.
Wisdom teeth in general, getting into wisdom teeth for whatever reason at age 20, 21,
Taking out?
I mean, they're going to need to be removed.
I think we'll get there, but yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. That's the goof.
Even though it's even though the cut says, even though it's going to be removed,
Right?
she has an appointment in 2 months to get it removed. It's using it as part of the body.
Yeah, as long as it's part of the goof. Again, the cuts we're going to be making unusually anyway, except for the hair. But let's make it more fun. I think we'll get to it later again. We'll get to it more fun. Let's say the dentist didn't say you need to take your wisdom tooth. Let's say the wisdom tooth is loose and it's hurting her. So that becomes a whole new shaila. So I think we're going to address that at a certain point. So we'll wait there. If not, just remind me at the end. I don't want to forget that. So let's deal with things that come up later. Those are all things that come up usually a week or two or a month or whatever after the filling. Things that come up later. Let's say the filling cracks. Here's a filling. It was a very nice filling. It's very shiny. And you can see right here, this is cracked. This has to come out. This piece is loose. Now, theoretically, you may have to take this part out also. So the shayla is, let's say we take this piece out. And now this is going to come out now at a certain point later. Now, really, there's nothing wrong with this part. This part still fits really well. So how do you look at that? And again, this comes up. But derechal, lady cracks part of the tooth, assuming you can get this little piece out. So now she wants to go to the mikveh with this in like that. So now what do you do? Or can I put a temporary filling in just so the food doesn't get stuck there?
She feels something?
Good question. Let's say she does. When she rubs her tongue over here, she feels a little bit of a sharp point. Right? Now, are you going to tell me it's been there for 15 years and also now it's a sharp point, now it's going to be a problem? Again, it could be. It could be that if it's bothering her, then it may...
I think if the filling wasn't done well and part of it's sticking out, if she doesn't feel it fine, but now it's sharp.
Right, but that's when it was done 15 minutes ago. This has been here for 15 years.
Well, for the last 15 years, it hasn't been sharp, but it only became sharp now.
Okay, very good. Okay, again, so in a situation like this, I assume what you want to do is make sure she's still comfortable, maybe put in a temporary filling on top of that, and then deal with it like it's a temporary filling. And it can't be worse than a temporary filling, especially if it's nice and comfortable. Let's skip this one. Okay, this is another one. Let's say you have a filling, right, and then you get a cavity around the old filling, right? So this person had a root canal. I know everyone knows how to read the X-ray, and it had a core in the middle, and now there's decay here, and this is just, here's an old filling and just a whole mound of decay. So now, what's the din of this filling now that it has to come out? Right? It's coming out. It's got decay around it. The only way to fill this is to take it out. So it's really the same shaila. Really, does this fall back into a category of a temporary filling because it's coming out? Or no, Kol Zman, the filling was really good, but Mamela, we have to take it out for another reason. It's gonna fall back and become more...
Why don't we give it as the tooth already? If something's there for 15 years, then it's the regular tooth. It's
Oh.
not temporary anymore. It's just, that's her tooth.
So again, I would definitely hear a person wants to make such an argument, but at the end of the day, it could be, and this is where it becomes funny, that it's only batel the guf, Kol Zman, meaning it's not like batel lagamri. It doesn't li'olam v'ayid. It doesn't become batel the guf because again, it's not part of the guf. It's just it's functioning as part of the guf so long as it can function part of the guf. Once it loses that ability, what? No, let's. So that's going to be even if a problem with implanted knee, that's going to be balua. You don't have a problem basis starim. But again, so here's where it comes up more practically very often. So this is the shaila really what you were saying over here. This thing, it's hard to see where this was, but this person had a big filling over here, and there used to be tooth here. Like there was tooth, and a filling in the middle. And now you don't really see much tooth over there. So it got cracked, right? So now, and this is the shaila again. I got a call from a dentist. He says, "What do I do?" I said, "I asked to call the Rav. You know, that's what you're going to do." But again, what do you do in a situation like this? So ironically, when they called their Rav, the Rav said, "Take out the filling and put in a temporary filling." All right? So meaning this is all going to come out later anyway, so take it out and put in a temporary filling. So again, I think the Rav passed in that way because he didn't realize, what was going on. I mean, again, it could be that he has nevuah and he knew better than I did it. But again, to me, this is much better than a temporary filling because it's much stronger and much more, it's a solid filling. I would rather go ahead and smooth this out, make sure that it's nice and comfortable, and then let them function like that until they're ready for the crown. But it really is the same thing. Really, he said put in a temporary filling. I'm just treating this like a temporary filling, even though it's really made of permanent material. Question so far?
It's still functioning?
It's still functioning. Yeah, that was still functioning. Yeah, still functioning. Yeah. And then this one is really going back to your case before. You have a person here. This is a good one here. It's cracked right down the middle, for those who can't see it, right here. Now, for those who are following the whole time, right here you could see that this person had a root canal, because this is the post that's being cemented in and holding up this core buildup. Instead of doing a crown on this tooth, they decided they're just going to fill it up in the middle, but they still used the post to try to make it more sturdy. It fractured anyway. So now, let's say this tooth, right here, for argument's sake, let's say you can clean out this area very well. Can we go to the mikveh like this, right? It's vade coming out, it's cracked. So again, we get to Abraham, you have different things hanging off different places. So what? It's loose. It's moving. So again, I think we're fine with this, but that's besides the point. Everyone can argue back and forth which way you want to go in terms of having medamet Abraham, not Abraham. But again, here you have basis stem, you have enough coolers to work with. The kol zman, this is your body. It really shouldn't be a problem. Then someone said, you could chew on it. I mean, again, it keeps moving. I mean, again, but you could definitely chew on it.
The post is coming out.
The whole thing's coming out.
So that's not what he's about. The post is...
Very good. This is where I wanted to get to. So then the shaila is, what's all this junk in here? Because now that this tooth is going to come out, so is it still bottled to the tooth, albeit not bottled to the body? Like you have to really spout. You have to make a funny spout over there to say now this is foreign material. So therefore, since the tooth is coming out, even though this is going to stay in the tooth forever, but now it's not bottled to the body anymore. So that's a hard one to say, because again, really, it really is part of the tooth, because you take the whole piece out and hopefully you just dispose of it. But that's really what I was going to get to. Very good. Here. Okay. I think what? I think we pretty much make it. Again, I didn't go through all. I didn't go through all the psakim of this. The truth is, again, it always comes down to a few things. There's going to be certain poskim that once you have an appointment set up to take it out, you're finished. That seems to be like a defining thing in general. Even I think in a case like this, I remember. I think the Chutchoni, I think is machmer in a case like this. I'm pretty sure, but I think red poskim, kol zman is part of the body. It's bottled to the goof. It hasn't changed, even though the filling is going to come out. But it's not that the filling is coming out. The whole thing is going to come out. And I think everyone's going to be making on this. I just bring this out because it came up once. A woman went to the dentist. They put on fluoride varnish. Fluoride varnish is what they put on kids' teeth usually, and it's really just there to help infuse it with more fluoride. So after the visit, they paint it, and then officially it goes off after a few hours. So a woman calls up at 10 o'clock, 10:30, I don't know, and she feels it. She goes to the mikveh, but she feels the fluoride that they put on her teeth that morning. Why they put it on, I don't know. So I went around, the Rav called me, he asked me, I said, I don't do this stuff, I don't even know. So I called a bunch of people I know I could call late, and the consensus was that it should not be a problem, it shouldn't be there at 10:30 at night, she probably just thinks it's there. So on that smach, the Rav let her go to the mikveh, and the other two from also, and I decided, I wasn't happy just saying that's what's going to go on. So I decided the next day, I went to yeshiva, and I brought a whole bunch of fluoride varnish with me, and I took a few light, and I asked them if they could be part of my study. I'm going to go. So we went up to the first cheder room on the cheder ches, whatever there, and I started painting their mouths with the different stuff. And I said, I'll speak to you in the afternoon. Tell me how long it wears off. And I decided, if you want to do a study properly, you can't just use one type of varnish, because maybe the lady had a different type of varnish. So I had 4 different type of varnishes that I used, different teeth, different this, and I used on a different light. And all of them said within a few hours, it was gone. Certainly after the next coffee, it was gone. So what? Okay, now we know next time. Make sure you have a yeshiva coffee before you go. So that was just... Okay, so let's go over prosthetics. These are usually a little bit easier. I don't think, a partial denture is when you are replacing part of your teeth and you have some of your own, so you still have some teeth here, and then you replace them, and a permanent And a permanent one is, a complete denture is when you're missing all of your teeth, so you need one of these things that replace all of your teeth. We'll discuss all these things together because the last one is what we call a flipper. That comes up often enough. I didn't have a picture in the mouth, I don't know why, but a flipper is like a little piece of plastic that replaces one tooth. And that's much more common nowadays if, let's say, a person loses one tooth and they're getting an implant done, or they, for whatever reason, they have something temporary they wear, and more people than you think of are walking around with flippers in their mouth. And the shaila is, for a denture, for a complete denture, a partial denture, and a flipper, what's the din? Now, l'chadchila, those all things should come out. They're temporary. They come in and out on a daily basis, number one. And number two, the shaila will be is b'di'evid. Let's say if a woman forgot to take it out. This gets super complicated because, again, this is, there's not water doesn't get underneath it. Certainly an upper denture works through suction. It's very unlikely any water could have gotten underneath it. A lower one, maybe you have a svar that water could have gotten underneath it if it moved around a little bit. But again, these are definitely not simple shilas to deal with.
Why do you need to take it off? It comes off to clean.
You take it off to clean, but you really, it's not a sturdy thing. It's really just made for aesthetics. You're not even supposed to use it for chewing. Like, the regular dentures you're using for biting. These you're not using for chewing much. It's really just there, for a front tooth, a side tooth. If the tooth is in the back and you're missing one tooth, you're not making that because it snaps in and out.
This is just till the implant goes in?
Pretty much, yeah.
What part is the flipper? There's gums, they make the gums, what do they put, this permanent, what do they put as,
It's all temporary. This is a temporary tooth. This is a fake tooth, and it has like little wings just to hold it in. So it snaps into the other teeth. This whole piece is made of plastic. I could bring samples another time. I didn't think of it. So I'm sorry. I did have a picture. I forgot of it in the mouth. Sorry. There. That's funny because usually I bring batteries. So this is a picture of it in the mouth. You can really barely even see it much. But again, this tooth is totally missing. This here is a stitch. The tooth was taken out. I think it was grafted, whatever is underneath. And this is a little stitch underneath. And this person's walking around. It looks like they have a tooth, at least temporarily, but that thing comes in and out. And you can see there's really not much room to water or anything like that to really get through.
you're not supposed to eat with it?
Yeah. If you're in company where you otherwise can't take it out, you can leave it in. But it's really not made for it. It's not sturdy enough to deal with any heavy chewing. Okay, so now a bridge, for those who don't know what a bridge is, when you're missing a tooth, this is basically like 3 crowns welded together. So if a woman has, let's say, she has a bridge done. So really, the whole shmooze with the crowns, it's the same thing over here also. Basically, you prepare the teeth, you take an impression, send it to the lab, they make you a bridge. You're wearing a temporary bridge in the interim while it's there, and assuming you have all the same, same check boxes checked off, you should be fine. If it's comfortable, if the bite is fine, it doesn't hurt the tongue, and it's going to be there, let's say, for an extended period of time, Bez Hashem, it should be pretty fine. And this is how you replace a tooth with a bridge. So that's when you're missing one tooth. Right? Another way we do things is, let's say, what's called a Maryland bridge. So as opposed to the other bridge where you have to shave down the whole tooth, let's say you're missing like a small tooth over here. What you can do is make a one tooth with like little wings on the side of it, and you literally bond it in. So this is great for low stress bearing areas. So but they very often don't last forever. So the problem with these is not when they're on. The problem is like when one of them starts to debond. So then it could be an issue because water can't get in properly, and really it's aimed to come out and be rebonded or shave off the old bonding and re-put bonding. We're going to discuss more of that when we get to retainers, which is really the most shchiach shaila. Really, people don't make this a lot anymore. They come up once in a while when a person can't get another type of bridge. Oh, yeah, we just had a kid, a young boy is missing a tooth over here, and it was just easier to make it over there. To make a bridge was too much. To make an implant, he didn't have a good enough bone, so they made something like this for him, and Baruch Hashem, he got married. So that was Baruch Hashem. That, literally. Okay, so now implants. Implants usually just have a few shilas in general. An implant is also when you're missing, let's say, one tooth for now. It could be multiple teeth also, but let's say for one tooth, an implant is a screw that's inserted into the jaw. So we're going past the normal area, right through the gums and into the jaw. So obviously the implant itself, the screw that goes in, is not a problem. The major issue that's going to come up is usually, and again, it's done different ways, so it's hard to speak for every particular dentist. Different people have different styles, but at a certain point, usually they're going to want to have something protruding through the gum line so that you can then take impressions, make some type of post, and then make a crown on top of it. If there's a temporary crown involved, all the regular halachas of temporary crowns are involved. Once the crown goes on, once the abutment's on, these are all screwed on or cemented on, they should not create a problem. This piece is usually what creates a problem. It's called a healing abutment, and it's really there for a temporary period of time to hold the gums open so they don't close back open. They don't close back over it. So if you take this off, the gums will then close, and then you have to numb the patient up and cut it open again to access the implant, because the implant's buried, a few millimeters under the gums. So therefore this is on for a varied amount of time. The shaila is really, what kulas do you have, what kulas don't you have? Different rabbanim have different kulas, they'll be semich on not, but derech klal, a lot of the rabbanim want to have it on for 30 days, which is really more of a tziruf. But again, you have other heterim, it's something that's on there for, again, it's always going to be covered. It's going to, let's say, if you want to be semich on the fact that only an uman can take it on and off, if you want to argue whether that's considered a ma'aseh uman or not. So again, there definitely are tzirufim you can be making.
Temporary filling.
What?
Temporary filling. Kulas, it's more kala, it's more home. If I'm making on temporary filling this, I should not be making.
I could hear people argue that you can't be makel, because the difference in temporary filling is actually, hopefully, replacing tooth structure in a functional way. This is really not really replacing anything at this point. It's always, that area is always going to be, what? It's always,
It's not doing something now.
yeah, it's not doing it. Yeah, there's nothing it's doing right now, except it's holding the gums open so you don't have to get cut. And
Temporary filling is doing something now.
a temporary filling maybe has a real function, and it's functioning, and it's just you really want the permanent filling, but you're really not makbid on the temporary filling. You just want a longer lasting filling, but right now it's functioning nicely and you're very happy. This is not a functional thing. So if a person wanted mefakbi, that's the area to mechalik. But again, Berger certainly wants us to tzir for 30 days. I think pretty much everyone's makel on this. And then to take it out and to put it back on. So let's say they call up and they say, well, we're going to the mikveh tonight at 10 o'clock. My Rav said this is a problem. Can we come in at 9 o'clock and you take it off for me and then go put it back on at 11 o'clock? The answer is no. The answer is no, for a practical reason, because if that's true, I'll be in my office every night at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, because there's always going to be someone who needs these. Again, unless a person really, really thinks this is a problem, you have to know. But I look around, see what people have to say about this. But again, Berger no one really has much of a problem with this.
What's the name of this thing again?
It's called a healing abutment. Healing, abutment, abutment. Okay, and just for view over here, this is what an implant looks like really. It's a screw that's put in and has an internal chamber, so you can screw other things into it. So these are different companies. This company, it's usually right around the gum line. This company is buried a little bit farther under the gum line, but that's what implants look like. And this is actually what a healing abutment looks like. It's a little piece of metal that sticks right out of the gums. Just that much, about 1 millimeter or so, just so that you can screw it on and off. A healing abutment. And this guy over here, and the way you get it on and off is right here. There's a hex. And again, I don't know if you guys all have a .04 hex driver in the house, but if you do, you could take it on and off yourself. Other than that, it's not so easy. Now, let's go over a few things, and then we're going to get finally, I think, again, we're moving along. This really was more of a thing that keeps coming up on and off. I got a picture someone sent to me 2 nights ago. I don't even know what I'm looking at. So when people take out teeth, I don't know what everyone does. I can only say about in terms of the way I do things, because someone sent me a picture of something and they said the dentist said he put glue over the extraction site. I still don't know what the glue means. I don't know what happened, but the Rav said that the shaila is over already. They went to the mikveh already last week. But they sent me the picture just to look. Normally when you take out a tooth, there is an empty socket inside, right? So sometimes what we'll do, and I tried depicting this because the shaila came up, is when you're grafting, without getting into the reasons why we graft, but sometimes we put bone material back into the socket to help it heal better, let's say, and then sometimes we'll put something over it. So the pictures really don't show it so well, even though if you know what it looks like, it's pretty good, but we fill up the socket with the bone material, and then this little thing that's like a piece of paper is then folded under there so that later when you're looking at the top, you're just looking at this like a Band-Aid. So just imagine you have like a hole, you fill it up, and then you put a Band-Aid underneath and you stitch around. So really the shilohs are always what happens when this membrane starts, let's say it pops out a little bit sometimes, what's the din of that particular membrane? So some of the membranes that are used, that's what these things are called, these Band-Aids, are dissolvable. So dissolvable things that they're going to dissolve on their own, most of them really don't have a problem with. But some of the membranes that are used are non-dissolvable. So when you have a non-dissolvable membrane that's now sticking out a little bit and causing a little bit of irritation, so that poses much more of a problem moving forward. So a person sometimes should know what these things are. It's not so easy because when the dentist says, oh, he put glue in, obviously he's not using Elmer's glue. So I don't know what glue means exactly. So he uses like a layman's term to make sense to the patient. But when the patient calls the Rav and the Rav calls me, it's all Chinese. So it's very hard to know what these things are. The easiest thing is to be able to speak directly to the dentist, should be aware what's going on in the mouth, and go from there. But these are just some ideas in terms of what's going on in the dental world. What was this? Okay, that's just a graft and stitching up. We're not going to go into stitches too much, but basically, again, this is a bone graft which you really can't see because it's already absorbed a lot of the blood already, and then this area is stitched up. And again, these happen to be non-dissolvable stitches. We're not going to get too much into the stitches right now. I mean, there's maybe chalukim if it's on the skin, it's a beis hastar, what we can make, what we can't be makel. In general, we never had like a dental convention of all the Ocean County dentists, but it probably would be a good idea for people to have the anhaga to use dissolvable stitches in the mouth because it just makes life easier. So, in my office, my assistant knows that for men they get this suture, stitch, and the women get this one. Now, she's a pnuya, she doesn't know the difference, but why in the world are you using this for this? Again, the men use this and women use this, that's it. So that's the rule. So it just makes life easier, and therefore we know that at the end of the day, I don't want to get a shiloh at 11 o'clock at night and have that be my patient. So at least my patients, I know we have dissolvable stitches going on, and that should really alleviate a lot of the problems. Let's say gingival grafts. This comes up once in a while. Again, in my office also, usually if we're doing this, I'll tell a lady to do it a few days after the mikveh, because we're going to be using stitching. If you have a weak stomach and you don't like blood, just next screen you don't want to look at. But basically, this person has recession and very thin gums. So what sometimes they'll do is we'll do some type of graft where we take gums from the top of the mouth and we transport them over here, and then we stitch it back all over this place and we allow it to heal. So these stitches, and again, sometimes I change, but these are not dissolvable. So in these situations, usually we try to be upfront with the ladies beforehand and let them know that we're going to actually be putting something in their mouth that will be a problem. So try to time it for, let's say, 2 days after the mikveh, because they're going to be in for about 3 to 4 weeks. Again, every situation is a little bit different, because other things that come up once in a while, they'll be in for a week or a week and a half, whatever it may be. So every situation is different. Let's go through braces. Braces are like in Paiskim, one of these very interesting, sugyas. There's definitely a school that the braces are a problem. There's definitely a school, and other shittas that hold that braces are not a problem. And, yesh v'yesh, and exactly what each Rav paskins, I don't even know sometimes exactly where they're coming from. The Metzias is like this. These are brackets. They're metal brackets. And then there's a wire that's put into the brackets. There's like a little space here for them. And then there's something called an O-ring, which is like a little rubber band that goes around them. And you can see here, again, here's your bracket. The wire goes through the bracket and it's being held on by the ring. So again, your first shiloh is going to be, number one, is the bracket a problem? If it's going to be on for a long period of time, it's not going to be a problem. Number one, number two, if things get stuck in here, right? And if you want to get very lumdish, right? Even if you're going to tell me that this metal bracket is buttled to the goof, these little rubber bands over here, those things come off on every few weeks. So you have a mira makbid on a mira chain makbid, or unless you want to say it's not a mira chain makbid. Let's say the bracket's buttled to the goof, it makes it a little bit better. But if you wanted to make a sugya out of had fun, try to figure out how to down this, that's really where your child is going to come up. What's the din of the bracket that's cemented onto the tooth? And what's going to be the din of, let's say, this little rubber band that's replaced every 6 weeks or so? What? Officially, no. Officially, it stays on for, let's say, a year or 2 years. The wire, they'll change up. Again, I can't speak for everyone, but the wire, they'll change up based on, the wire is what gives it the force. It has a certain memory to it. So they may change that for certain reasons, but that'll also be in for an extended period of time. So that's why. So again, everyone has their own. I'm not here to machriya. Certain rabbanim are very machmir on these things. Certain are very makel on these things. But again, one thing that does come up is an issue is in the back of it. And the orthodontists have told me sometimes when the assistant puts it in, if they're putting it in, this wire goes to the last quote-unquote bracket, and then they have to snip it at the end of it. So sometimes if they don't snip it short enough, well, they don't want to snip it too short because then it could pop out or whatever, but if they leave it too long, very often it'll cut into the cheek. So then, whatever heterim you had till this point, all of a sudden become a little bit less exciting because you have something that's really makvid, and that definitely can be an issue, so you have to be careful about that.
What's the wire being, what's it being placed it's on? Water goes up and around it. It's just when the gum presses it, that's where it is. When the gum's not pressing at that minute, then you're good.
No, but if the...
At the time of the mikvah, her cheek is not pressing into the wire. There's no chatzitzah.
So what, 5 minutes before it was and now it's not? Meaning if she wants it out...
It's the same thing like if she had a band-aid, she took it off 5 minutes before.
No, because right now it's something... She be'emetz wants it off. She wants it fixed.
It's not being chaitzed against the presser.
It's being chaitzed, it's on chaitzed on the brackets. On the brackets. The brackets.
Still connected to the bracket.
Yeah. Okay. So now, well, it got exciting. Okay. We're still getting to my favorite and most common shaila, so don't get too excited yet. Okay, then there's something called power chains. Oh, these are just power chains. You always have to just know what's going on. They use power chains to like their longer elastics they put on. So I happened to there's just a very nice picture, and sometimes they'll like hook it from here to here, but on this particular picture, you see that it's pushing against the gums. So if a lady has a power chain right here, because the mouth is on a curve, so it's going from here and it's going to there, and it may not be a problem on its own, except for the fact that now it's sitting right on top of the gums, and you have to know how long is that on? Does she take that on and off? Doesn't she take that on and off? So that could be an issue if that's sitting on the gums. And now we'll get to Invisalign, which is exciting. I updated the pictures. I was very excited about that also, because basically Invisalign was the new answer to braces, because now you don't have to worry about braces anymore. Now we don't have big things on our, so in the old days, Invisalign was just these plastic retainers you would put on one, and the computer would be able to figure out how to make them a little bit different. So each one you have has a little bit different, so it creates pressure and moves teeth. But then they wanted to become more and more effective, so therefore they started putting these little bumps on the teeth over here, and these bumps here and bumps here. I don't know if everyone can see so clearly, but basically what they did was they created these bumps that now you have more surface area and more contact of the plastic aligner to the tooth, and literally they're treating these bumps like brackets. In fact, this particular person I took a picture of, I was upset I didn't get a picture earlier, because like 2 months earlier, they had much bigger bumps. They were like huge. So a lot of people had said, this is on for a long time, it's not makbid, it's tooth colored, you can't see it. But when they're sick, they're like tumors, like they're sticking out like huge, I wasn't so sure I want to be making them. Now,
What's the missing?
it's made of filling material, basically.
And it stays on?
And it stays on for the duration of treatment. Let's say for 9 to 12 months. So then the shayla is, again, you're back to this. It's something that's going to come off, and it's really like a bracket. It's just not silver, it's white. And again, the shaylas come back. I was on the phone with Rabbi Schwartz, the anicle of the Debretzina. He put out the Sefer Piskei Ber Maisha. He put the Ber Maishas in Keseder Shulchan Aruch. And I was talking about braces in this, because they write over there that the Ber Moshe was makel on braces. So I said, why was he makel? And again, I don't remember all the details because he had a very fast Yiddish and I had a very Hasidish Yiddish. So I did not get everything, but he was trying to me how braces are not a problem at all. He goes, they're on, they're functioning, and he kept telling me that these bumps he didn't like because he says once the plastic thing is off, now these are completely functionless. And he didn't want to be semich on the fact that they're on for a long period of time, because now, right now, he goes, braces, while the wire's on and the elastic's on, everything's functioning the whole time, so you want it to be there. He goes, the thing is, you have no interest in these things being there, except for the fact that you're going to want them back on when the plastic goes back on. So he wanted to be makel on braces and ganzen, and be machmir on this, where I think a lot of the places around here are fakir. They're going to be much more makel on this, because again, it's not such a hakpada, it's on for a long time, and theoretically, these bumps could stay on forever if you want to leave them that way, but we usually just take them off because they don't look that great, and they just become unnecessary. So that's the shaylas with Invisalign. And that's what it looks like with the little plastic thing on. And you can see the little plastic bumps are what help you create more surface area to go ahead and move the teeth. And Ted's, let's skip that to sleep. Okay, this is the number one child that comes up constantly. And in fact, I'll show you, the next slide was last night at 10:30. Some people, after they get braces, their dentist says, here, you're going to wear a retainer. And they have a retainer that comes in and out. They have one of these cute little boxes to put it in and out. About a month or two later, they never see those retainers again, right? And then when they come back 10 years later, all the teeth are in a different time zone because this one's going that way and that's going that way. And the parents said, what did I spend $6,000 on nothing for? So other orthodontists say, no, so I want to go ahead and I want to put a fixed retainer. Let's go cement in a wire, and this is what it looks like. This is a real person. This is a shayla. Well, it's a long time ago. It's 12 years ago. 12 years ago, it was a kala, right before the chasana, and the father called me up at 4 o'clock. The chasana was not that night, but it was short. It was soon. And he said, he spoke to the Rav, and the Rav said that this is a problem, and she has to have it removed. He says, and my older daughter didn't have it removed. What do I do about her when she got married? Like, okay, so either way, what? It's supposed to stay forever. In fact, I remember I was talking to Rabbi Yamin Forst about it, and he like 3 times during the conversation, he's like, L'olam? Like, and he wanted to make sure it was forever. Officially, it's supposed to stay on forever or as close to forever as possible. The problem is it very often it debands. Well, let's leave debanding for a second. So basically, Lamaisa, I took pictures of this, I went to yeshiva, and I showed it to a few of the Rabbanim, and one Rav said, great, let me take this with me, I'm meeting with a bunch of Rabbanim today, I'll pass it around and get their opinion. So, and I told him who the Rav was who passed in l'chumra, based on whatever he heard on the phone, who said this has to come out before the chasana. And that Rav who passed in l'chumra was going to be at the meeting also. So he passed the pictures around, and everyone, less man the polig, everyone said it was not a problem. The person who had passed in l'chumra said, oh, that's so interesting, because this week I got a similar shaila. He goes, but it was different. It was a problem and it had to be removed. Now, so the Rav told me that I didn't have the heart to tell that Rav that goof was the same shaila he was machman earlier in the week. But Lamaisa, again, very often what you hear and what you tell the Rav makes a big difference in the psak. But at the end of the day, Baruch Hashem, she left this on. The problem with these things is that sometimes with a lot of wear and tear, they do wear down. And then what happens when you get a call at 9:30 at night and the wire is like that, hanging down into the mouth or hanging over the teeth, right? So that's what we were dealing with last night. Okay, number one, it's hard to see here also, but you see there's material here, and you can see the material here. Technically, right now, forget the wire for a second, but all of this material has to be removed if you want to rebond the wire back on there. So right now, again, you have material that has no place being there. She wants to have removed it, and whether it's comfortable or not, that I'm not even sure. But at the end of the day, before she went, so we cleaned these teeth off, we ripped this off, cleaned these teeth off, and then again, and I told the dentist, told her when you go back to your dentist, have a new one put on if you want to have one put back on.
You have that shadow, something that's permanent, and that you asked before, so that's permanent, it's going to stay forever, and all of a sudden it becomes always permanent.
Right.
That's really what you
So this is real. It's going to go. It's a constant. Right. So the difference with this is not. It's ice permanent. You could hear. The question always is what's bothering her. Meaning Kolzman, she's gonna. Meaning, let's say you have a filling that needs to be replaced. The woman's not thinking about filling need to replace. I mean, certainly as long as this thing is hanging into the mouth, there's. Yeah, so you said Lu Yitzur, say Lu. Correct. Okay, so again, if b'diavad she went with that on, again, you could probably hear more makom to be mekel, but l'chachila definitely, I say, at 10:30 at night, I'm not trying to. They said, are you going to cement it on, or are you going to take it off? I said, at 10:30 at night, we're not doing dentistry. We're just doing halach. We want to get you to the mikveh safely, and that's about it. It's coming off without any discussion, because I don't want to have to play with this. It could take who knows how long to get that back on. But, so that's pretty much it. I think, yeah, so that's pretty much it. What? So that was the same shayla really with the broken tooth, which is really the same thing. That really anything that's part of the body doesn't, just because we want to remove it, doesn't mean that it's akpada. We call it like akpada gemur. Even then, without the chumas on fingernails and things like that, again, we'd have a lot more coolers.
What was the power chain of
straight across the teeth.
So you know what? While I was talking, I started thinking in my own head. Once we were having discussion, you're saying, "What's the difference?" So I think really, because again, it shouldn't be there. But you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm not. As I was talking in my own head after the conversation earlier, I was like, maybe it's the same thing. The same way everything else is covering the teeth, this is covering the gums, and maybe it should be no different. 100%.
Well, that's while it's across the teeth, that's part of its function, as opposed to the gum. It's not functioning there, it's just cutting a shortcut.
Yeah, I don't know. There's no other way to get it done. So it's.
That's the way to do it.
I'm trying to think. What else? Okay, Shkoyach. Any questions? We're good.